उडिया भाशेंतले नाटकाचें दिग्दर्शन ताणें केल्लें. त्या भायर दूरदर्शना खातीर ताणें फिल्म तयार केल्लें, आरण्यक म्हणून केलें फिल्म. आनी मनोज दास हे नामनेच्या उडिया साहित्यकाराचेर ताणें डॉक्युमेंटरी तयार केल्या. तांकां अनेक पुरस्कारांनी ते गौरवान्वित आसात. साहित्य अकादमीचो, केंद्रीय साहित्य अकादमीचो पुरस्कार तांकां फावो जाल्लो. गोदावरी सन्मान तांकां मेळ्ळा. सरला साहित्य संसद हो पुरस्कार मेळ्ळा. चिरसंधान सन्मान, क्रांतीधारा सन्मान हे नामनेचे ओरिसांतले नामनेचे सन्मान तांकां फावो जाल्यात. आनी तांणी जे रंगमाचयेक योगदान दिलां ताका लागून थिएटर ल्युमिनरी म्हणून तांकां सन्मानीत केल्यात. आनी त्या भायर जर्नलिजमांत तांणी जें योगदान दिलां पत्रकारितेक ताका लागून कलिंगा मिडिया सर्वीस सन्मान तांकां फावो जाला. इश्टानो, एक नामनेचे साहित्यीक व्यक्तिमत्व आमकां लाभलें हें आमचें भाग्य. मे आय प्रेजेंट टू यू प्रोफेसर प्रफुल्ल कुमार मोहंती.
Greetings and love from the people of Odisha to the people of Goa and all Konkanis. I apologize right from the beginning that I cannot speak in Konkani. Unfortunately, I cannot speak in my own language. So I have to speak in a foreign tongue, and that is English. You will kindly bear with me. Mr. President, organizers of Vimala Vipai Vishwa Konkani Sahithya Puraskar 2010, lovers of Konkani literature, invited guests, award winners, Sri Mahabaleshwar Sail, and dignitaries present on the stage, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I thank the organizers for this kind invitation, which gives me an opportunity to share some of my thoughts with the lovers of Konkani literature. Konkani is a great literature depicting human nature in a cosmic context. The great stalwarts of this literature have immortalized man in his epic struggle for dignified survival. I salute the father figure of Shanoy Goembab for his untiring efforts to authenticate Konkani as a literature of human pride. Shanoy Goembab has given Konkanihood respectability and its rightful place in the diverse cultural complexity of this part of India. His rare genius humbles me and at the same time pains me that he could not get his due honor in his own lifetime. Konkani and my own mother tongue, Oriya, have a similar struggle for identity. In the beginning of the 20th century, Oriya as a language and literature suffered the same fate as Konkani has suffered. The Bengalis attacked Oriya, saying that Oriya is not a separate language. Oriya act is Swatantra Bhasha Noy. It is an offshoot of Bengali. Similarly, Konkani too was attacked by Raghunath Bab Talwadkar, challenging Konkani's claim to be Goa's primal language. Shanoy Goembab countered all negative arguments in his celebrated Konkani Bhasachem Joit, which fortunately I have read, which in my view is a masterly work in itself. Its logic, research and presentation comprises a masterpiece of cohesive and definitive assertion of myth, history and umbilical connections with Goan identity. In a perceptive biography of Shanoy Goembab, Dr. Kiran Budgole has done great service to the master as well as to Konkani literature and Konkanihood. Today, Konkani enthusiasts and Konkani diaspora have demonstrated that Konkani has a global presence by organizing this function and by awarding a great Konkani writer, Sri Mahabaleshwar Sail. I congratulate the award winner and the organizers with all my heart. But sadly, literature today is not the primary focus of the human society. Politics, capitalistic economy, and manipulative designs to usurp the rightful place of common man have hijacked human interests to a narrow hedonistic corner of human depravity. Literature is lost in a world of information. What T.S. Eliot had said almost a century ago, I quote, "Where is that wisdom we have lost in knowledge? Where is that knowledge we have lost in information?" This has come true now. Mass communication media exposes every hour the horror of human soullessness and gives us an information overload that shrinks our souls to despair and despondency. Relationships die a million deaths in our idiot box serials, and love, human goodness, and moral values are butchered by man's self-oriented machinations to decimate all finer nuances of life. Identity politics, caste equations, terrorism, Naxalism, and bureaucratic inaptitude, coupled with political corruption, have vitiated the cultural ethos to such an extent that the right-thinking intellectual feels like withdrawing from the world of man to a lonely contemplation of his solitary sorrow. The writer's pen falters at his own reality. The world he experiences and the world he dreams of conflict in his consciousness, leading him to a stasis. He suffers from a crisis of confidence. Literature mainly tells us how to live, if not to survive. The writer has a sense of right and wrong. The moral paralysis which has now come makes the writer shy away from his role of a culture shaper. But all through the history of literature, all over the world, the writer was a lawgiver, a designer of moral life. But now he shudders at the prospect of dealing with the new morality that confronts him. I will refer to a situation in the Nobel laureate Steinbeck's The Burning Bright. I will borrow a sequence from that, a few scenes. There is a scene where a man is seen reading a report. It's a medical report on his own sperm. He wanted to become a father, but he has not become a father, and the sperm report says that he can never become a father. He goes out. After a few minutes, when he returns, his wife comes running, embraces him, and says, "Congratulations, you are going to be a father." You can imagine the situation. When the man gets angry and tries to say certain things, a servant who had grown up in his own family and had lived with them for more than 30 years, he comes up and says, I will speak slowly. The language is this: "You fool, you must be grateful to your wife because she has sacrificed her chastity only to give you the pride of fatherhood." Can you accept this logic? Well, I have no comments to offer. Well, this is the kind of logic with which we have to make compromises every moment, every day. Now, this logic is hard to accept, but choicelessly we have to make a compromise. It is not simply sexual morality, but the entire gamut of human experience which revolves around some ethical concern or other. Jean-Paul Sartre posits that a reader of a narrative has the moral responsibility to give himself generously to the ethical frame of the whole work. William James claims that the most unbridgeable gap that exists in nature is the gap between two human minds. It's the duty of the writer to bridge the gap by extolling the moral being to a universal perspective. Literature preserves values for contemplation and evaluation. It encompasses fleeting human reality in plot, character, action, and metaphors. The reader has to sift, judge, and evaluate for a sense of his own well-being. The joy of being alive comes from literature. Alasdair MacIntyre, the best-known contemporary ethicist, says that without access to stories and novels, in fact literature, children and men may not know how to behave and how to function in the society. Deprive children of stories and you have them unscripted, anxious stutterers in their actions and words. This is true and we have to admit it. Stories tell us who we are, and with the understanding that who we are is greatly shaped by the community of which we are a part. The universal in us is a product of our common humanity as colored by our particular community. And who we are unavoidably raises the host of ethical questions about how we should live. This raises the most fundamental question. Do we have a community life at all? Is there any moral intersubjectivity in our social life? I leave the question open for you to answer individually as writers, for no single writer has now the claim to have his finger on the pulse of the society. The society now is a conglomerate of diverse interests, multiple focus on reality, and reality is the individual writer's personally perceived world without any relationship with the other minuscule worlds moving around in the so-called society. We are now in a postmodern bind. Deconstruction, decentering, disappearance, dissemination, demystification, discontinuity, dispersion are the terms that define our reality. And these express an epistemological obsession with fragments and a corresponding ideological commitment to minorities in politics, sex, and language. To assert general truths is to impose a spurious dogma on the chaos of phenomena. Respect for contingency and discontinuity limits knowledge to the local and specific. Literature today, at best, is no more than a temporarily useful fiction, masking chaos. At worst, an oppressive fiction, masking relationships of power, violence, and subordination. In this psychosocial environment, can we say that literature celebrates life and upholds the moral being? I'm afraid no. In 1992, in Dublin World Literary Conference, Nobel laureate Chinua Achebe, I'm sure all of you must have heard of his name. The theme of the conference was celebration of life. He went up to the dais, looked at it, read it out, celebration of life. Well, what do you want us to celebrate? When the Englishmen came to Nigeria, they doubted whether we had souls. When the teachers taught us in the classroom, they doubted whether we have proper minds to grasp what is being taught. Well, in this atmosphere, well, there cannot be any kind of celebration of life. Well, I'm skipping a part of it. And there is another harrowing problem. If these are the moral issues, if these are the socio-political issues which bog us down today, there is another very important issue which is very relevant for you, for me, and for all the Bhasa literatures and languages of India. And there is another harrowing problem, that of language. No language, particularly in the Bhasa literatures of India today, is pure or homogeneous. Of course, language is not a static pool, it's a flowing stream, and will gather new elements as it streams along. But all Bhasa literatures, including Konkani, I am afraid, have lost purity, both in their vocabulary and also in the construction of sentences. This is bound to happen. Take your own Goa, which is one of the most beautiful and picturesque states in India. I may say in the whole world. Every day, thousands of tourists come here, speaking alien languages and displaying diverse cultures. Automatically, the local language changes its color, rhythm, and structure. For we live in a vast materialistic world where language which will give us rice, will give us food, will give us a job, will be spoken and written. The IT revolution and the language of business management have already transformed our languages into a kind of mere functionality. The language of literature, therefore, must change of necessity. Some intellectuals have also predicted the death of literature. Books with titles, The Death of Literature and Does Poetry Matter, have already come out from America as a warning note. But I personally believe that literature can never die. Yes, it may change its form. The character delineation may change. Narratology may embrace innovations, but literature can never die as long as the mystery of life continues to mystify us. I am positive that within the next few decades, narratives will be like screenplay, and the language will be more sensitive to reality. The present generations enclosed